everyone, welcome to Physics 126, Classical Physics B. I'm going to be your instructor, Mr. Clow. Uh, this video is just going to be going over some of the information that's going to be on the syllabus as well as just, what to expect from this class. If I do say anything in one of the later videos that contradicts what I'm about to say, uh, ignore it as those videos were recorded before this one. All right. So, first thing, as you may know, everything's going to be pretty much set up virtually. So, I just wanted to explain to you some of the areas that and websites that we're going to be using. So, first off, all my files and slides are going to be posted onto Google Classroom. You're able to access them now. You could see everything essentially. Even the homeworks will be visible at that moment. The code to get into the Google Classroom is up here. Use that, sign in. That's going to be pretty much the main access. For the most part, I'm really not going to be using Blackboard too much. I might hold tests on Blackboard, but I am going to try to see how to use Google Classroom instead. So I'll probably make a comment on Blackboard urging everyone to go to my Google Classroom, and then I won't be using it anymore. Now, all my videos are actually posted onto YouTube. However, you can watch them at any point, but in order to actually get attendance for this class, I need you to watch the videos first through Edpuzzle. So if you haven't done this already, make an Edpuzzle account, and this is going to be the class code. What you do here is the video plays, and then you can answer the questions. That's pretty much it. I'm going to be able to see your answers, and for the most part, you're going to get 100 on it because, again, it's used only for attendance. It does not affect your grade. Don't worry about getting the questions right or wrong. One thing about the Edpuzzle videos is that even though you're going to be allowed to skip around, you actually need to watch it all the way through once without really moving for it to be labeled as completed. So if you watch the whole video, you answered all the questions, and the video is marked incomplete, chances are it's because you skipped ahead or behind. So that's just something I've noticed. But like I said, it's only for attendance purposes. Now, like I said, I'm planning on really only using Blackboard for tests, but I'm looking into switching over to Google Classroom. So I'll let you know by the first test where you should be looking, whether it's going to be Blackboard or Google Classroom. All right, so the materials for this course, typical the John Coley Physics for Scientists and Engineers 4th edition book. I think you've been using in all your other physics classes. All my notes pretty much come straight from the textbook. So in fact, the only thing you need the textbook for is really the homework questions. Now, obviously, I do try to translate the wording, the notes of the textbook, because as you probably know, it reads really poorly. So while I am following the textbook very closely, I'm saying it in a different way. But like I said, the homeworks or the homework questions are really the only thing that you really need the textbook for. So if you want, feel free to look at someone else's textbook, get the questions from them, and then you won't need to really buy the book. But again, I'm pretty sure you have already bought the book for another class. And a scientific calculator that allows you to do basic trig functions, exponents, things like that. So as you know, this is the second of the 3-year intro course. The topics that get covered, it's a little bit of a hodgepodge. The first section of this course is all about mechanics stuff, forces and energy. The third section, the third course, is all about E&M. This one is pretty much everything else that can't be split into those two topics. So static equilibrium is something we cover, and then fluid dynamics, simple harmonic motion and waves, thermodynamics, and waves and optics. Now, I'm actually splitting this course into 3 sections. The first section is, and I'm doing this to kind of keep it somewhat related to each other. So the first section is going to be mechanical stuff where we cover static, fluids, simple harmonic motion, and wave motion. The second section is thermo, and then the third section is wave and optics. All right, these are the chapters that get covered. All right, so the grades are most likely going to be posted onto Google Classroom. Like I said, I'm still looking into it, but for the most part, I'm going to be having all my grades immediately posted the moment I know them. They're posted. Now the weighting for it, so there's a final, two midterms, and homework, but each test, the final and the two midterms, are actually split into two parts. I did this because I felt that having a full length midterm virtually was a little bit of a stretch, since I know some people might not actually be able to block off that amount of time if they're at home. So cutting in half makes it a little bit easier and a little bit more manageable. So the midterms, one, two, and the final are split into two parts, and each one's going to basically be on their own week. So makes things a little bit easier. But that's the weighting. One thing I want to bring your attention to, since a lot of people don't realize this, the midterms and the finals are somewhat roughly about the same weighting, 25 and 35%. What this means is that the final in this class is not going to be a make it or break it final. If you are doing poorly on the first two midterms, the final may not be enough to bring your grade all the way up into a B or an A range. If your midterms are really, really good, then the final may not hurt you that much if you did really poorly. So I just want to bring your attention. A lot of people by the end of the course get confused why they got, F's on the first two midterms and they get a B on the final. They still won't pass. It's because the weighting is still roughly about the same. All right. So the lectures, all the videos are covering pretty much 1 week's worth of material because this is a summer course. And like I said, all my videos are pre-recorded. They're on YouTube and Edpuzzle, so you're free to look at it on YouTube. The attendance for the lectures, which are the Edpuzzle stuff, is not mandatory, but it's highly recommended. Like I said, you're not being graded on this. I mean, you technically on Edpuzzle it's being graded, but it's not a grade that's going to affect you in any way. I just need the videos completed through Edpuzzle as a form of attendance on my side. As far as meetings go, we'll actually be holding 3 meetings each week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. If these days or times don't work for you, let me know as soon as possible, and I'll try to reschedule. The meetings are going to be done through Google Meet, and the code for the meeting is actually up onto Google Classroom right now. It's always going to be using the same code, so you won't have to worry too much about that. Once again, attendance is not mandatory, and the thing that I want to mention is that these meetings are strictly for you to be asking questions. You could think of these as more like office hours. It's for you to ask questions, receive help. You have a question on homework, that's where you ask me. If you have questions on like the material, maybe something didn't make sense, that's where you let me know. I'm not going to be teaching anything during these. I mean, nothing important at least. So for the most part, these meetings are going to be worth as much as you put into it. Again, last year there were times where people just came in and then never talked, and they were expecting me to say and do stuff. But again, it's all on you. You guys are the ones who are controlling that meeting. You want to know something, you have to, bring it forward. You have to ask me. Like I said, the exams, the way I did it was I did one exam a week. And like I said, it was each midterm was split in half. So, there was about two topics, and then we covered an exam, two more topics, and then the second part of the exam. I don't know exactly when the official days are going to be. You can look at the class schedule. That will have pretty much the when each test is going to be, what material it's going to be on. That material, that information is up on Google Classroom. I'm going to try to do what I did last year and make it every Thursday, I believe. Yeah, every Thursday. Uh, each exam is non-cumulative, so for the most part, the information that you learn in the later topics shouldn't play too much of a part on the midterms. However, I do want to put a little bit of an asterisk on that, because while it's not necessary, while there's not going to be a focus on material covered in a previous exam, there is a chance that that information might pop up, especially if we're talking about the second part of the midterm for a topic. So, for example, our first topic I said was all about mechanics. There was the static equilibrium and fluid dynamics, and then there was going to be also waves and not waves and optics, simple harmonic motion and mechanical waves. The second part of the test is going to be focusing on the waves aspect and simple harmonic motion, but there's a chance that information from the static equilibrium course may pop up and play a part. So just keep mind in that. Now, these exams are held at home, so obviously I can't really enforce this aspect too much. However, you're allowed to bring one page of notes. I actually do highly recommend that you keep to that you keep only one page of notes there. If you bring any more than that, it could get a little bit confusing and you'll be bogged down by information. Honestly, you can put all the important equations and important piece of information on an index card. You don't really need a full page. So make sure that when you make your page, that it's only of the useful things. Also, try to keep it organized. Like I said, there's going to be pretty much one question on the exams per uh, lecture video. So that will actually help you kind of focus on what you're going to be, what should be together, what equations, what information should be grouped together. The test is going to be 60 minutes, and then you'll have 15 minutes to email me the work. So, like I said, the way it's going to work is you're going to log on to one of those websites. Like I said, I don't know if it's Blackboard or Google Classroom. The questions are going to be there. You'll have 60 minutes from when you start, and then you'll once that time ends, it'll basically lock, and then from that moment, you have 15 minutes to screenshot whatever work you did, to take a picture of your work, try to make sure it's a clear picture, to scan it in, to do something, and then email it me through my typical school, at stonybrook.edu email. For the most part, this 15 minutes, I'm not going to be super strict on it. So if for some reason it took you a little bit longer for you to upload the test, maybe it took 16 minutes or 17 minutes, I'm not going to knock you. This phrase, this deadline is more meant for the people who complete the test in 60 minutes and then wait about 2 or 3 hours before they email it to me. So those are the people that I'm going to be looking out for and, keeping an eye out. If it's just like a few minutes here or there, I'm not going to, be too stressed out about it. Just try to make sure that you get it up as quickly as you can. If you have any immediate issues with the test, contact me as soon as possible. Don't wait until the next day or hours later. Let me know as soon as you can so that I can rectify it immediately and work with you. The test is not multiple choice. It's basically going to be, like I said, 2 questions where you're going to need to show your work. They're free response questions. I wanted to actually mention one thing was that the questions are going to be similar to the questions in the textbook. I do want to clarify that a bit though. The homework questions that I give you will be pretty much one off questions. They'll be questions that require one single step, one equation to solve for it. Now, those types of questions won't really appear on here because it would be hard to make a two question test where each one is worth only one equation. Instead, each question is going to have multiple parts, and each part is going to have a homework question that's related to it. So while you may not see a question on a test that looks exactly like question 14 from homework 1, you might see or you might notice that part A looks a lot like question 14 from homework 1, and then part B looks like question 26 from homework 1. If you want to get a good example of the types of questions that there's a section near the end of the questions that it's called, I believe it's called general questions, and they're going to be very similar to the questions that we'll see. You'll see essentially examples of questions with multiple parts, with a part A, B, C, D, where each part kind of relates to the next part. If you want to answer part B, you're kind of going to need to answer part A, and so on and so on. Also, you'll see examples of questions where all the topics that we covered in that chapter are basically combined together. In the homework questions, like I said, you'll see questions that really focus on one equation at a time, but the general questions will kind of show you an example of all of them together. I do recommend that you kind of look out for that, especially since sometimes a general question kind of pops up. Okay, the homework. So the homeworks are assigned at the end of each PowerPoint. And like I said, they're coming straight from the textbook. So there's going to be 10 questions that are assigned to you. You do have to complete all 10, but I'm grading 3 of those questions. Now, those 3 questions are actually very specific. So they're the same for everyone, which means that if you happen to actually do the homework and for some reason those 3 questions were the only 3 that you didn't do, unfortunately, that's going to hurt your grade. And you're probably going to get a really bad grade because of that. I recommend that you at least attempt every question. I'm not really looking too hard on whether they're right or wrong. I want to see an appropriate attempt. One thing I want to point out is similar to what I've said before, when you watch my videos and all that, you might notice that it says, oh, it's due on this day. Skip that, ignore that. Once again, those videos were recorded before, and I don't feel like re-recording them. So all the due dates are on Google Classroom. So everything on Google Classroom takes supremacy over everything that comes after. All right. No late homeworks are going to be accepted. Get them in when they're due. I recommend that you work in groups, but like always, don't copy. And also, I know I'm not going to pretend like I don't know that the answer keys to all the homework questions are posted online for everyone to find. I'm sure each of the 10 questions you can easily find answer keys for. I'm not an idiot. I've seen many times when I'm looking at people's homeworks how very closely all those answers look like they come straight from the answer key. I do recommend though that to not use them as a copying method. If you're going to use the answer key, use it as a guide and as a check. If you're having trouble knowing where to start, you can use the answer key to kind of give you that initial push and then try and take it from there. Because, like I said before, the test is going to have similar questions from the homework. If you don't know how to answer the homework questions, then you definitely don't know how to answer these test questions. You should be able to answer these homework questions with ease in order to have a good chance of doing well on the test. Some helpful tips. Like always, the best way to learn physics is to do physics. There's going to be sections where in the videos where I pause, I give you time to work on the problems. I recommend that you use that. Use the time to work on the problems. The nice thing again is that you can do something similar to what I just said with the answer keys on the homeworks. If you're having trouble, you can start watching the video, pause it from like at each section and see if you can take it from where I'm leaving off. Um, Honestly, if you just watch what I do, there's really no guarantee that you're going to understand what's going to happen and that you'll be able to do well in this class. So you really do want to make sure that you're practicing the physics yourself. Um, there are going to be times where a lot of questions are going to be algebraic questions. There's not going to be any real numbers. So my tip is to always solve homework questions algebraically before you substitute the numbers in. It actually makes life a little bit easier. And like I said, it's something that you're expected to do on the test. I do recommend that you set up study groups and you work with partners. I can honestly not stress how much that has helped me when I went through physics. And as a teacher, I actually know firsthand that the very act of explaining to someone and also having the information explained by a peer can make the information a lot easier to digest. So I do recommend setting up study groups, but again, do not cheat. Use it as a way of reviewing and practicing, not as a way of cheating. And then be organized with your notes when you're doing problems. Um, Again, a lot of times people have trouble remembering what information they did, and if you're organized, it won't be as hard. All right. Well, there was one last thing that I want to mention about the exams. I forgot to mention this, but they are going to be curved, but they're curved based off of the class average. So just wanted to point that out. If the average is really high, the curve's not going to be as high. If the average is really low, the curve is going to be higher. So keep that in mind. And again, no cheating. If you have any questions on me, for me, you can either message me through the Google Classroom. In fact, you could do that, and maybe someone else in the class will respond. Or if you would like to just wait until our first meeting, wait till then. Otherwise, see you later. Good luck and have a great day.